everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel 90% Native. My name is Michelle and I garden in Northern Virginia in Zone 7A. Today I'm going to take you around and show you the gardening tasks that I was able to get done in my spare time this week, and also a few of the things that I want to get accomplished this weekend. First up, a gardening friend of mine happened to be at Costco and she knew I wanted these Christmas ferns, so she picked them up for me and I have them in my possession, and I would like to pot them up today and get them started. I don't want to put them out in the landscape just yet because I want to give them a chance to grow a little bit first. You can see a little bit of green in there. So that's one thing I want to get done. Next up is this bed that I have, this little bed that I have right in front of my garage. And I've gotten this bed ready for the spring. My work ends, let's see, right here. And what we have in here are native strawberries. They will take over this whole area and be a really pretty ground cover. And then down here I have golden Alexanders and I can't think of the sedge right now. Fox sedge? I think it's fox sedge. And along the edge I have a lot of nodding onion coming up here, and then also there should be the native petunias coming up as well. Along the edge here, I went ahead and cleaned that edge up a little bit. And this area is like a leaf trap. So a lot of fall leaves get trapped in there and they're super, super, super thick. So I pulled them out, and now that the temperatures are generally above 50 degrees during the day, every day, I went ahead and I chipped up those leaves and then put them back in here as a mulch. And then you'll see here where I stopped. Now I'm not going to do that mulching everywhere, just in some of the places, but the rest of the bed all needs to be cleaned now that the weather is a little warmer. And then I want to show you a little bit of the front yard, not too much. Right here is where my rain barrel goes, and I am waiting on some information about how to put a pump in there so that I can use that rain barrel a little bit more than I did last year. And right here is where I have the native Virginia clematis, Virgin's Bower, and then also another type of hybrid clematis. It's a really popular one with big purple blooms. Then we have green and gold all through here. I'm going to take out the green and gold around the edge, and I'm going to put Carex amphibola like I have around the edge of the entire bed. Carex, this is a really wet area, and green and gold actually like a little bit drier, so I have lots of places that I can move it to. But we have 3 sweet pepper bushes here that, you know, they look like they're dead, and if you have, the Latin name is clethra something, but if you have sweet pepper bushes, don't give up on them. They are like the last thing to start leafing out. And then next to the sweet pepper bushes, I have Dwarf Fothergia. I have 3 of those. And I also have Maryland, little tiny Maryland Dwarf Hollies. These will get very, very big over time, but they will stay very low. So I also pulled the leaves out of here and chopped them up and then put them back in the bed. We'll skip over the right side because that side's not done yet. And I just wanted to show you the very pretty daffodils. So here are my daffodils, and then I love this. This is a lemon 9 bark, lemon something 9 bark. Anyway, the deer eat on it, but when they first leaf out, they have a really pretty yellow that looks nice with the daffodils. So that's there. But one of the tasks I want to do this week, if you can see here, I have switchgrass, and it's a little big for this area. So I want to move the switchgrass over here in this area where it doesn't look like there's much, but there are 3 swamp rose mallows over there. So I want to put the switchgrass in between the swamp rose mallows to kind of give the swamp rose mallow a little bit of support. And then if I turn around, I have a rhododendron, a dwarf rhododendron on each side of the path. The paths are lined with Carex and Fibula. And then on the right side behind the rhododendron, I have 3, I think it's called Idia virginica, botanical name. But they're cultivar Little Henry. And then I will pan over to the left, and there is the dwarf rhododendron. I have 3 inkberries, and in this spot here, this is where I'm going to chip up the leaves, but I have cardinal flower, nodding onion, which you can see the nodding onion starting to come up there. And I'm sure the cardinal flower rosettes are under the leaves. Yep, here we go. This is a real wet area. So there's the cardinal flower rosettes. And then I have, in front here, I have either Meadow Beauty or Handsome Harry. I'm pretty sure it's Meadow Beauty, but I will confirm. I'm not really sure what that is. I don't think that's a Meadow Beauty because I don't see any others popping up, but I'll be interested to see what that is. I mean, that's really the only thing I can think of would be there because I put like 12 of them in this line. Okay, and then over here I have some non-native azaleas that I cut back last summer. Cut them back last summer, and I'm going to do that with all the azaleas here because they're entirely too big. I probably won't cut these ones back quite as harsh, but they really do spring back, so I'm going to cut them back quite a bit because behind these native azalea bushes there is a bed in front of my garage, in front of those windows, that I want to fill up with compost and put in some native asters. There are bleeding hearts in there now, the non-native variety, and then I want to put some native asters, maybe one thing that likes the dry soil for every part of the season. Okay, and then in front of these non-native azaleas I have sensitive fern, which is all going to be moved to the back, and then here in this area right here I have heuchera. I also interplanted this whole area with native ginger. I'm hoping that comes up, so I'm crossing my fingers. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. I have the 2 tasks up front to do, which is moving the switchgrass over there to there, and then to pull out these leaves, chop them up, and then put them back. I do have some leaf mold in the back that's a darker color that I might go ahead and use back here to give it a little more of a front yard look. Oh, and I didn't happen to mention over here I have purple lovegrass. It's a little wet for the purple lovegrass there, but it seems to do okay. And then I have steeple bush up here, and then I might put maybe a couple dahlias right here just for some blooms for the summer. Supposedly the deer won't eat them, you know, too terribly much. We shall see. Okay, so that's it for the front yard. So now I want to show you what I have growing on my deck. Right here I have a lot of the seedlings that you probably saw from my seedling tour video. So I have borage, parsley, oregano, snapdragons, sage, more oregano, thyme, and then more oregano over here. This flat contains sweet peas, and then I sowed some leeks very, very late, but I'm just going to grow them for their blooms and for the fact that pollinators really like them. Just going to put them in the cutting garden. Here is the native honeysuckle, the northern bush honeysuckle that I'm trying to propagate. I'm propagating that using 2 different methods to see if either work. This was just taking some of the stems and putting them in, and then I did this one too. It's a longer stem I just put in there. And then I have nasturtiums, I have dill, purple coneflower, well, 3 different types of dill, purple coneflower, German chamomile, and more oregano. I have 2 types of oregano, the common oregano and then also the marjoram type of oregano. Here are the nasturtiums that you've seen me show before. This would be black velvet, empress of India, and butterscotch. And then over here we have butterscotch, nasturtiums, a glorious, what is it? Glorious, hold on. Oh yeah, glorious gleam nasturtium, and then phoenix nasturtium here. This flat is full of alyssum here and calendula, 2 different types of calendula. I have Pacific Beauty and Resina, if that's how you pronounce it. So those are the flats that I've moved outside. These flats will stay outside, I think, until Sunday, and then we're going to dip below freezing for a few nights, and I'll pull them back in. And then after that freeze, I am going to bring everything out and then pull everything back in when need be. So that would include everything that's left in my seed starting room, basils and tomatoes and cucumbers and those types of things. So over in this corner of my deck, I have a heated bird bath that needs to be cleaned out. And then I have, this is a Pinkster azalea. I think it's Pinkster. Yeah, this is Pinkster. Pinkster azalea. Down here I have a flame azalea. Okay. And then I have a elderberry. It's one of these black elderberries, I think. I don't know the name, but it's a cultivar. It's not like native. And then in the whiskey barrel, so I have 2 whiskey barrels, one right here and then one over here. And before yesterday, I think it was, I had these New Jersey tea bushes, which I grew from seed a few years ago, in these smaller containers. In this smaller container, and then in this smaller container. And these containers have 3 different perennial salvias. So I have 3 different salvias. I have Agastache, Rosy Posy. I have Salvia Heatwave Blaze. And then Salvia Greggy. So these salvias were in the whiskey barrels. These New Jersey teas were in these pots. So I moved the New Jersey teas to the whiskey barrels. I moved the salvias and the agastache to the pots. And those salvias and agastache, those aren't necessarily native in anything that I want in the landscape, so that's why I have them in the pots. And I just happen to love salvias, and I love the hummingbirds coming to visit, so I love to have those on my deck. And then I gave obviously the New Jersey teas a bigger space to live. They get eaten up by the deer, so that's why they're not out in the landscape. And then in front of the New Jersey teas, I just have the 2 whiskey barrels lined with a purple type heuchera and a carex plantain, no, not plantain leafed, oh goodness, I'll have to put it up on the screen, but it's like the seersucker sedge. And then just in these little pots behind it were just I think some seedlings of the seersucker sedge, and then maybe some golden alexanders that I potted up, and I'll put elsewhere once they get a little bit more established. So up on my deck handrail here, I have Eastern prickly pear cactus, which, believe it or not, that is a Virginia native, and I grew these from seeds, something I'm pretty proud of. Sorry about all the dogs, but something I'm pretty proud of. They have yet to bloom, and they've probably been alive for 3 years, so not sure if those are the conditions I'm giving them or if it's just because they're young plants. But what actually happened was, this was one plant and I knocked it over down there on off of the deck, and it turned into 2 plants. So that's what we have there. Okay, let me go over here. I did a Facebook and Instagram post about these northern bush honeysuckles the other day. I just think they look so cool, and so in these pots I am going to put a dry loving sun herb that I can use in the kitchen. The reason why is because the northern bush honeysuckles, they like a drier type of condition, and I'll just see what it looks like. I'm sort of just babying these northern bush honeysuckles for now. I like the way that they're kind of spilling, so they really should go out in the landscape, but the deer are going to get them, so I'll have to think about that. And then I did all those cuttings to do some testing. Behind that, this plant right here is, let me see if I can get it to focus here, is a huckleberry. Oh, look, I might be able to pot that one up by itself. So this is a huckleberry. The blooms look, black huckleberry, the blooms look just like the blueberry, or very similar to the blueberry blooms. This is my whiskey barrel that the raccoons get into. I know they're still coming because they were in that whiskey barrel the other night digging in it. But anyway, I need to get in there this weekend and get all the fall leaves out of there. I should have done that in the fall. I didn't. And so I need to rethink this. What am I going to do about the raccoons? Should I just dump out the water and put herbs or something like that in there because I'm growing so many herbs this year? Or do I just keep trying to get the raccoons to go play somewhere else? Or do I just live with raccoons? I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. But anyway, bare minimum, I need to get the fall leaves out of there. And then the last thing over here, this is lemon balm. I actually didn't even know lemon balm was a perennial. So I'm like, okay, well, let me just throw some compost on top of these little pots and see if the lemon balm that was in there last year comes back. Lemon balm is very aggressive and invasive, so you do not want to plant it out on in the landscape. I have these here because we have a huge mosquito problem and I want to deter the mosquitoes. So that covers it for the deck. This is my deck. Not totally spring ready yet. We don't have our umbrellas out yet. I want to paint that potting bench black. No one agrees with me on that in my family, but everything out here is like deck color or black, and that just looks country and doesn't match. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? Put them in the comments. Here are some things that I tried to seed in the summer. They didn't work so well. I do see some things coming up. Like, you should, if you ever are seeding anything and it doesn't come up when you think it's going to come up, just keep it around maybe for a year and you might actually be surprised at what you get. I do see a couple little pieces of green coming up, probably weeds, but who knows. This, you probably saw me seed up in one of my other videos. This is bottlebrush grass, and I was really actually kind of annoyed that I seeded it up and put it down in the basement under lights because it doesn't need any time to cold stratify. And I had see these big ones, 5 of them come up. That was it. And then I realized, why do I still have this downstairs? It's getting warm outside. So I brought it back upstairs, and now I have all these little seedlings coming out. So, this year I've experimented a lot with growing under lights and then just doing the normal winter sowing. I really think that I'm just going to do the normal winter sowing again and stick with that, which means I'm going to sow my plants, my native plants outside in the winter and let them get cold stratify if they need cold stratification. If they don't need cold stratification, then I will sow them in the late summer and let them overwinter so they'll be bigger in the spring. And that's just what I'm going to do from now on. And then I'm going to save my seedling room purely for my cutting flowers, my vegetables. Yeah, basically that's it, my cutting flowers and my vegetables. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention here is I kept this, I didn't put any compost on this. So I wanted to show you is that the compost that I use is called Leaf Grow, and it's local here in Northern Virginia. It's from Maryland, and so it's not coming many miles across the country, you know, using up that fuel. So I use that Leaf Grow compost. But what I did here is in the fall, all my pots I filled with fall leaves. Like I filled them all the way up. Like this actually doesn't show you how far, like most of them were all filled up too. And then yesterday when I was messing around with the whiskey barrels and getting them ready for the spring, I just covered all of the leaves with compost. Those leaves are going to rot, and they're going to put soil structure into these the soil in these pots. So all I did was just cover it with the compost, and this one needs more compost. I'm starting to run out of compost, so you see, and then that one too needs more compost. But anyway, just to kind of keep that soil in the pot, you know, living with, you know, the fallen leaves and all that good stuff that it will provide to the soil. You know, you don't have to be super clean about everything and, you know, getting new soil and replacing your soil and all this kind of stuff. I don't know, like, I mean it's just me, you know, you do what you want to do, but I just think that some of that is probably just propaganda to get us to buy this stuff, you know. Just use what you have. Like, don't buy all those plastic bags if you don't have to. Make your own compost. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent. So let me look at my list and see what else. Here's Violet. Hey, good girl. Hello. Hello. You're going to say hi? You're a good girl. Okay. I happen to notice that I have a few white pine. Can you see them? White pine seedlings. And this weekend I do want to kind of dig those out and pot them up because I would really like to put them back in my woods. Let me kind of pan over there. Can't really see it because of that holly. But find a little bit of spots with sun and put those seedlings back in my woods. We lost a lot of white pines in some ice storms. Not this past winter, but the winter before. There were white pines down everywhere. So anyway, I would like to get some of those back into my local landscape. Something else I'll be doing this weekend, I'm not sure if you can see all the little stems and things like that. It's time to start cutting those back a little bit and making them a little bit more tidy in there. I don't need it to be super clean or anything, but I do want to make it a little tidy so that people can walk through and enjoy. The astilbes, I'm going to cut these back because you can see the greens coming up. So I will cut those stalks back this weekend. And then moving down here, the other thing I want to do is move this Brunnera. It is not a native. It's really pretty. It's not invasive, but it's not native, and it looks out of place with my natives, I think. And so I'm going to put these in a corner up by that the bed I showed you that had the sweet pepper bush and the dwarf fothergias. So there's a corner for those. They like shade, they like moist environments. It's a good alternative to hostas. If you have deer, the deer will eat on them a little bit, but they won't really decimate them like they will hostas. So I'm going to find a little corner for these guys, move them to the front where they will be appreciated a little bit better than back here with my natives. Something else I did this week was I received 3 persimmons right there. I received 3 persimmons from a native plant nursery and out of Tennessee, and I finally figured out where I wanted to put them. So that's one, and they all need cages because of the deer for while they're young. So that's one right there, very small, in front of this cherry laurel. And I'm gonna kind of pan back so if you can see, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but they all have the pink ties. So I have one here, and then I have one there, and then I have one right there. So they're large trees, so they'll get very tall, and they look to be far enough apart. So hopefully I have 2 females and 1 male, cross your fingers, because obviously they're too young to be sexed. So yeah, I'm hoping to get fruit, you know, in about 20 years. And then over here where this one is in front of the Coosa dogwood, I think I said in another video, eventually I want to get rid of that Coosa dogwood. So that's why I put the persimmon there. And slowly I'm going to get rid of the dogwood. And what I think I'm going to do this year is take off, I think I'm going to take off this limb right here this year, and then that limb right there. It might look a little awkward, but you know, whatever. And then the following year, take off this limb and that limb, and then leave it like with one like stalk for the tree. And eventually then this little persimmon here will grow up, and then I can take down the full Coosa dogwood. Coosa dogwoods, if I didn't already mention it, are not native. They have really cool flowers and berries and everything. However, the berries are not edible by any local wildlife, so it's just like needless. Okay, so those are the persimmon trees there, and then this is from the other angle there and up there. Okay, and the last 2 things that I want to show you today are these 5 red mulberries. I ordered them from a nursery off Etsy. I think they were in Tennessee too. Tennessee has a lot of native plant nurseries, by the way. So these are red mulberries, the native red mulberry. A lot of the mulberries you see are white. They're not native, and they're actually invasive, even though the birds still love their berries. So I potted those up, and the reason I potted these up instead of planted them out is because, again, I want females and then at least 1 male. Well, I want females and a male. So I got to figure out at what point, how long it's going to take me to figure out if those are males and females. And once I do know, I'm going to put them somewhere down there near the trampoline. The trampoline's pretty much in the exact location where I would like to put a female, but I don't think we can get rid of that one anytime soon. Okay, so I did that in my spare time this week, and then one of the other tasks that I want to take care of this weekend is to move around all my self-seeded, sown golden Alexanders. They're starting to bloom. They look absolutely lovely. I have lots of places they can go. If you can add golden Alexanders to your landscape, I highly recommend it. It's going to be some of the first green that you're going to get to see in the spring. So if you have a lot of it, you can get some green early. It's the host plant for the swallowtails. I think specifically the black swallowtails, but don't quote me on that. The beautiful blooms are like yellow Queen Anne's lace. That the blooms are edible. The stalks are edible and can be eaten just like celery. So there are a lot of reasons to have this. Also, you don't have to cut it back, but after it blooms, if you cut it back a few inches from the ground, it will, in a few weeks, you'll have all new leaves that'll look a little newer or fresher than the leaves prior, but that doesn't mean you have to cut them back. They can still look good all season long. That is one of the last things I wanted to accomplish. That's a lie. Actually, Let me take you to the very last thing I want to do this weekend. Well, it probably won't be the very last thing, but it's the last thing I can remember to tell you about. And finally, here are my quote-unquote cold frames. They're not cold frames. But anyway, I just keep them to store a lot of the plants that I've winter sown, or sown, well, yeah, winter sown in the fall and over the winter. But anyway, I would like to move these cold frames down past my dog who's eating a shallow sedge, and then down in this area over here. And I'd like to take back this area to make more of like a raised bed vegetable garden. As I've mentioned before, this is like one of the only areas I get sun. I get a little bit of sun over there and some sun over here, but this is where I get most of the sun, and I wouldn't mind having maybe some of those metal beds or something like that. Right now I have some grow bags. Anyway, I have some family coming over this weekend, and I'd like to see if they can help me take those down to where I want them to go eventually, and then I can like bring this out a little bit. My septic is there, and so bring this all out, leave that open for the septic. Obviously it was just cleaned out or flushed, I don't know what you call it, but anyway, and to do more deer resistant vegetables right here. Okay, so that is one of the final things on my to-do list since I'll have help this weekend. So that's it for today's vlog. Just a few things that I've done in my spare time this week and some of the things that I'm going to be working on over the weekend. I'll give you an update and let you know what I was able to accomplish. If any of this content appeals to you, feel free to share my videos, like or subscribe. Anyway, I will see you again next time.